My name is Jared Williams. I'm a lab specialist here in Makeup for Motion Pictures at Full Sail University. Today I'm going to show you how to make a versatile plate mold to create your own custom prosthetic pieces. Here are the supplies you will need to make your mold. Before you begin your sculpt, you want to visualize the concept for your prosthetic piece. Today I'm going to be creating a knife wound. So we've got our sulfur-free clay. I'm going to use a putty knife. You could also use a clay cutter to take a small section off to begin our sculpt. Before we start to use our sculpting tools, I'll knead the clay into the rough shape that we want our prosthetic piece to be. Then we're going to place the clay onto our plastic surface. We'll start by pressing down all of the edges so that the clay is stuck to our plastic surface and won't lift up when we use our sculpting tools. Once you get your clay pressed down, we can begin to sculpt. Keep in mind that the sculpture is going to reflect the final prosthetic piece. We'll be creating a mold from which we'll then make our appliance. I'm going to be removing some clay so that our wound can lay flatter and look more realistic on the face. I'm using a set of wooden sculpting tools that you can pick up from an art supply store to sculpt our clay. I'm going to be creating the knife wound with an asymmetrical shape and a slightly jagged edge. It may be necessary to turn your sculpture so that you can work from different angles. You want to make sure you get a nice thin blended edge on your appliance so that the piece will lay nice and flat. If the piece is too big or the edge is too thick, you'll be able to see the appliance right through the makeup. I'll use 99% alcohol and my chip brush to get a nice, smooth and thin edge. Once the edges of the piece have been laid down smooth, you can use a cut-off chip brush or a stipple sponge to press simulated pore texture back into the appliance. Now we'll cut a few more strips of clay, which we're going to place around our sculpture in order to create a containment field for our mold material. You want to make sure that your containment wall stands taller than any portion of your sculpture so that your mold material will be able to capture all of the detail. I'm rolling out a thin piece of clay that I can work into the bottom corners of our containment wall to ensure a nice tight seal. Now that we have our finished sculpture inside its containment wall, we're going to spray the entire surface with mold release to make sure that our clay does not stick to the liquid plastic. I'll start by applying a light mist coating to the entire sculpture, then use a chip brush to work the product into the textured areas. Then apply one more mist coating. Now we're ready to fill our sculpture with our mold material. I've selected to use a liquid plastic because it has a very short cure time, captures great detail, and is very strong. The plastic I've selected to use is a simple 1-to-1 mixture by volume. Whatever material you decide to use, make sure you read the directions. I'm measuring out 8 ounces of total product. You're going to want to adjust the amount of mold material you have depending on the size of your sculpt. We'll combine both components of our liquid plastic, mix them thoroughly, and then pour till our mold is covered. This particular plastic takes about 15 minutes to fully cure. It'll turn white and solid, and then we'll be able to clean up our edges, clean out the excess clay, and begin making our prosthetic pieces. Now that our plastic is fully cured, we're going to remove the clay containment wall and lift free of our sculpture. Now that we've got all the clay cleaned out of our mold, I'm going to use a fine grit sandpaper to make sure that my mold doesn't have any sharp edges. And here we have our finished plate mold. Check out our next video where we show you how to fill the mold to create your own prosthetic and how to apply it to your talent.